Hey listeners, Fox Racing is still up and running despite the COVID-19 crisis, and they're running free shipping on any order. There's no minimum required to get free shipping, so go to foxracing.com and check that out. And before we get started, I would like to mention the fantastic partners that we have to support bringing the show to you. We have RockyMountainATVMC.com, Slick Products, and ODI Grips.
Said if you can't win, wreck someone who can.
Exactly.
I knew I wasn't winning that.
Why do people not get out of the fast lane?
Every time I see that picture of you riding around with that big ass fro you're wearing, I still get pissed.
It was that night I said preparate, but I didn't say what I wasn't supposed to say, and that's A1.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to Real Talk 447. I'm Jeff Emig, as always from Corona, California. Well, at least lately. I got Ricky Carmichael with me in the Tallahassee Taj Mahal. How you doing, Ricky?
I'm good, buddy. How are you? You hanging in there?
Yeah. I see you got some school books in the background there for your kids. Been doing some work downstairs.
That's right, distance learning. And then over my right shoulder, you can see it was a project, space project that my son did for science. They're supposed to go to when the rockets take off and for one of their field trips, and it got postponed. Well, it's been canceled now, but it's kind of so they had to
well, we got another guest this week.
Yeah.
Red Dog, Timmy Ferry, welcome to Real Talk 447. I'm sure you've got some school projects going yourself, having two boys.
Oh, man. Actually, thank you. Thanks for having me. My wife's been doing that, honestly. I did get a emoji this morning with the brains exploding.
Oh, yeah.
They're working on some school stuff, so she's been handling most of that, though.
Good. And so have you guys been able to get out riding a little bit with the boys and get a little social distancing going that way?
Yeah, we've still been kind of, because we got our tracks right here at the house, so we've been kind of fortunate there. Not only just have kind of a big yard, but a track in a yard. So we've been out maybe 3 days a week or so.
Nice.
But it's starting to get kind of stir crazy.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Hey, Timmy, I was looking up some of your stats. When did you first start racing motocross? Because you rode from a pretty early age, right?
Yeah, I started riding. You mean like when I was a little kid?
Yeah.
So I started riding in '82, and then I kind of started racing. I started racing locally a little bit in '82, and then '83 started venturing out more. I think '83 we went to Ponca City, and I think by '84 I think we went to Loretta's.
I didn't realize that you rode 18 seasons as a professional. Is that true?
I think so. Yeah, I never really. I always say 18, but it's probably 17 and a half or something. But yeah, 18, I think.
Round
up,
right?
1992 to 2009. I'm like, and I was, I would have covered some of those races with the broadcast. That's just, what do you think? What was the drive, and how do you think you sustained that longevity?
I mean, I don't know. I always loved riding. Like, racing was cool and, earning money and, being my job, but I just like to ride. I don't know. I think I didn't start off. I know Ricky kind of came in, first year really, already ready, hot, fast. I started in 92, but I didn't really get decent till 94, 95. So that saved me a few years. And then I had a couple of years that I just had some injuries. So I almost missed a couple seasons, and then kind of had like a second win by the time I was like 29 or 30 years old.
One thing that Red was one of my favorite riders coming up, and always looked up to him. And then if you think about it, and you think about the generations that he's been able to race with, turning professional at such a young age, and then having the lengthy professional career that he had, dude, he's got to race some of the, basically everybody, all the best ever to do every discipline. And he's got to experience, every kind of bike, aluminum chassis, steel chassis, two-stroke, four-stroke. I mean, you got to do a lot of cool things, right?
Yeah, I think, Jeff, you probably did some of the races that I was in. Well, we probably raced, I'm sure, at some point too. So
Yeah, right. Well, you picked a time period here. Well, you didn't pick it, but you were in a time period where if you take, you would have raced against at least 4 of the top 6 winningest Monster Energy Supercross champions.
yeah, I definitely. Me and Chad have talked about this a few times. Man, I probably picked the worst time. Obviously, Ricky did.
Well, yeah. So you would have raced against McGrath, Ricky, Reed, Stewart, and you might have just missed Dungy and Villapoto then, no? On big bikes.
Yeah, Villapoto's first year on 450s, we were teammates at Cowie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was 2009. So, and then at the end of 2009, I retired. And then that was it. But yeah, it's funny you say this. I actually raced with Jeff Ward and Rick Johnson in Tokyo. And I think at the end of 91 or beginning of 92. And RJ would tell me, I guess I don't know why, but I was the first one to jump some triple. And he thought I was Japanese. He didn't know who I was. And he was telling me the stories like 20 years later. But he's like, I remember that one time you just jumped this triple. And I thought everybody was going to do it.
Yeah, right. Well, I wasn't normally the first to jump anything like that. So good job.
At the end, I wasn't either. I remember sometimes Ricky and all those guys would jump down Rocco's leap. I'm like, oh, dang it. All right. Last lap of practice, come around and jump that thing.
Hey, Red, what about when Stu would jump something? You're just like, because I didn't want to do it at the time, especially my last couple of years. I'd be praying. I'm like, oh gosh, please don't jump this thing, right? It's just like, oh man.
I don't know. I think by the time, like you said, I was with McGrath. He was super technical, but he didn't really jump anything crazy. And then you and Reedy would jump stuff. And then I think by the time Stu got there and Stu jumped it, I was just like, no, I ain't worried about it. Now, if Ricky jumps it or Chad jumps it, okay, now I need to probably do it. But if Stu does it, I'm like, no big deal. But now the next guy, all right, now I got to do it.
Well, probably one of the most memorable parts of your career had to be whooping Ricky's ass in the 1997 125 East Coast Championship.
Wasn't just my ass; it was everybody's ass.
Yeah,
Killed it.
Yeah, that was a cool season. Obviously, Ricky was a rookie that year. Also Dowd was really good that year too.
Roncada was also, right?
Yeah, Roncada was good. Yeah, the last round, Roncada, I think you might have won. Roncada got near me, and I'm like, I just checked up because I'd already heard he was going to come for me at that last race. So I kind of just checked. I don't know if I got third or what I got, but yeah, that was a good year. Ricky was fastest. He was just had some mistakes. And
you
was right.
Say it. Don't hold back. I beat the traffic out of half of the races that year because I was sitting on the hay bales back then. In 97, I believe they were. And yeah, I hit the deck plenty of times, but I was all or nothing. So I wasn't, I'm sure hedging your bets that I was going to crash, that would be a pretty safe bet to take at 97.
I guess there was probably a point in that season. I think I got all seconds and maybe a third and fifth or something. But there was a point in that season. It's kind of like Stu jumping a big jump. There was a point in the season where I'm like, go ahead, Ricky. I don't care.
I love it.
Whatever happens.
You got married that year too, Red.
Yeah, that was a good year.
Yeah.
That's funny you say that. Obviously we go back a long ways. RC came to South Florida with his dad, and he was on 60s and I was on 80s. His dad was doing some electrical work, and I think, man, we're talking like 86 or 87 or something.
Yeah.
Long time ago. We were just riding in some fields.
Yeah. My dad was doing a public supermarket down by where Timmy grew up in South Florida, West Palm Beach area. And I think it might have been spring break or whatever. And my dad's like, hey, we'll go down there and we'll ride with Timmy. And so, yeah, I got to ride down there. And then, of course, in the summer, Timmy would come up once in a while and stay. When I lived in Tarpon Springs, would stay there. And he was, few years older than me. But anyhow, yeah, a lot of history there. And, we kind of share the same story for our viewers and listeners. yeah, we both kind of came from nothing, and yeah, we were able to we're able to make the best of our opportunities that were given to us. So yeah, and we grew up racing the same amateur tracks, and like I said, Timmy was a little bit older than I was. However, we were always at the same races until he went on professional. But very similar paths, if you will.
Yeah, I remember going to Ricky's and he had something on his fridge. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it said, "When I grow up, I want to be a pro like Timmy Ferry" or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It was there for a long time. So,
dude, it's still framed. It's framed. It's in my parents' house right now. It says, "When I grow up, and I want to be a pro motorcycle rider, just like Timmy Ferry." Yeah. And then one day, Timmy signed it. It was when you were number 29.
Okay. Yeah, I was
2 years. Was that 29? What year? 20?
93. 93.
93.
Yeah.
And then you were.
I remember going. We used to go riding at Croom all the time in the summer.
Yeah.
And then Jeannie would make us all go for a run, and me and my friend Andrew, we would go on the run, and Ricky would he would fall off the back, and then all of a sudden we'd come running back, and he'd hop out of a tree and we'd throw water on his face and with the sprinklers and stuff. Just many goofy stories. Like
I did.
Dude, if you had trained back then, you probably wouldn't have had to work so hard. You would have had your base laid down. You had to make up for it.
No, man, I was like 10 years old at the time.
Yeah, I mean, we would go riding. He would ride a lot. I remember one time he had his forks bent. I think the day before I got there, and the front end was twisted sideways, and he just kept riding the same bike. And so he would ride a ton, even on 60s and 80s.
Yeah, we did.
So were you the one that influenced him to actually start wearing gloves when he rode? And goggles?
I think I don't remember that actually. I've seen pictures of it. I don't remember that time. He was already a professional by then. He had gloves on.
I was already. Yeah, I already had. Yeah, I was. By the time I started riding with Red Dog, I was already wearing gloves and goggles. And yeah, for sure.
Kind of got your program together.
I'd stepped up.
That's funny.
Hey, so your championship run in 125 Supercross in '97 was built off of a consistency. You had, what did you say, a third and a fifth and all seconds?
Almost all seconds.
Yeah, basically all seconds.
All seconds, yeah. Everybody just always talks about how I won it with all seconds.
Well,
So.
but it also really is the theme of your career. I think that you had a very solid, consistent career. Obviously, there were some injuries here and there that took you out of a couple of championships, but that consistency also is what promotes longevity. Certainly your consistency and being a rider that could be counted on all the time was the reason why you were chosen to the Motocross of Nations team for Team USA 4 times in a row, right? So you want to talk about those years, which years those were?
So I guess there was a couple of years they didn't do it, I guess, right? Because of 9/11 or
2001, we ended up not going. I don't think we went in 2002 either. I don't.
There was one. It was in California that got canceled, turned into the World Cup. Yeah. I don't know how many times it got picked, but the two that I remember are the 07 and when Ricky obviously was there, and then the 08 one. Those are special.
So you only actually rode 2 of those 4 times where you were chosen.
I actually rode 3. Me, Ricky, and Rhino went to Zolder, and we got second that year. I think I crashed out a bunch of times, hurt my thumb, and Rhino broke a chain. And so I think Everett's won that one. Ricky won his race, and it was a little bit of a debacle, but that was a experience. To lose a Motocross of Nations is the worst feeling for me as a racer that could possibly happen. Sorry. I feel like I just let everybody down. Everybody's eyes were on me, but
three times. But I was on the first team that didn't win. Once we started winning as a team up into the 90s, the first time that we didn't win was Roggenburg, Switzerland in 94. And by far my worst, most painful defeat ever. Like the worst. I was so bummed in myself. I went 2-2 on the day in the 125 class, and I felt like I let everyone down.
Right. Yeah, it's the highest of highs. For me, it was the highest of highs. You talk about my career. Yeah, I had to obviously deal with Ricky and McGrath, all these guys. The 07, 08s, really kind of helped keep my name, like, even current to this day. Like, people still talk about 07 like it was the most magical race ever. So,
Well, it had been 20 years since the Motocross of Nations had been on U.S. soil. In fact, it was called the Motocross of Nations back then, 20 years ago, when Bob Hanna, Rick Johnson, and Jeff Ward won the event at a very muddy Unadilla. And so then you guys get together. Villapoto's on his game in the 250. Ricky, you're finishing up your final season, which was a half season of Supercross, half season of motocross. And then this was it. And Timmy, you were having a good season, but Stewart was the initial pick to ride the MX Open class. And then he gets hurt. You guys are teammates. So how did you step into that? What was that process like?
I guess once he got hurt, I believe he hurt his knee at Washougal. I think that's how it worked. And then I was the next one in line. You were even a part-time.
Yeah. You won that day though. You won the overall Washougal that year.
Yeah, I went 2-2 again there. There you go.
Hey.
Yeah, won that day. But that was the last outdoor I actually won, so that was a cool one. But yeah, so Stewart was, the main guy to have it, and then he got surgery on his knee or whatever. So, I always feel like was kind of like the anchor, like I will pull that guy, and he'll get a solid.
Well, I mean, Kawasaki had already budgeted it. You had the number plate backgrounds were printed, the hotels were reserved, so why not, right?
Yeah, I said after 2003, I said I'm never going to Motocross of Nations ever again, and because the experience there it wasn't like the team was in 07, 03. It was almost like 3 riders. Rhino was already, I think, in Europe. Ricky had his team, with Honda, and they were in their own little area, and then we were with Yamaha. We went over with a small staff. Just kind of had people were trying to steal my gear bag. I'm like, I tore my thumb in practice. I'm like, man, I'm never doing that race again. And to have that low. And I remember Mitch Payton going, hey, man, it's totally different now. He had kind of revamped it, I think, in the years prior to 07. And it really was a team. They had their own paddock and the fencing and guards. And Big John was our security guard. It was a huge step up from 03.
Yeah, Ricky, I was going to ask you about that because I remember at the time, so Red Bull was the title sponsor for the event. All of you guys were all Monster Energy riders. And there was a sense of this togetherness and, hey, let's build this team compound at Budds Creek. Do you remember like there being just a whole collective, like a big group effort, or was it, I mean, what was that?
Yeah, I certainly remember. I recall that definitely it was way more team oriented. Now, granted, it was, in our home country, so logistics were a lot easier. But I think we had learned a lot from the years before, like Timmy was talking about. And yeah, definitely, I feel like we had a good plan. There was way more communication for sure. It was much easier, being, most of us had our own rigs there. Our own race semis. So everything was very, very comfortable. But yes, definitely the team camaraderie, there was a lot more interaction. Definitely 2003, when we were in Zolder, that whole thing felt weird. It just had a weird vibe, like how we were pitted. The weather was kind of gloomy all weekend. And, we were like in this garage area. It was an old like F1 track and like Grand Prix track. And so like, yeah, we were in these tight little garages and people were in between us. And yeah, like we didn't have, like Timmy was saying, we didn't have our own like little paddock. Like we had this rental box van, Yamaha had their rental box van, and Rhino was already on the Pamo Honda team. So they already had their gig set up wherever it was. And so yeah, it was just kind of, there definitely there wasn't as many people there, not as many team people. So for sure, I definitely feel like we weren't as one unit like we were at 2007 Motocross of Nations. And the vibe was, I mean, Budds Creek, it was awesome. It was a great team. I was happy that Red was on there. it sucks that James got hurt, but there wouldn't have been anyone else that I don't think Team USA should have had, other than, you just can't beat that. You can't beat that experience. You just can't. And Timmy's been around a long time. He knows what to expect. And I always think that it's good to have, and Jeff, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this, and you as well, of course, Timmy. But I feel it is always important to have someone who has raced that event and knows what everything is like and knows how it all works. Sometimes it's good to have people that have been there, rather than some young buck coming up that's never done it. Because it's a completely different way and system and how they race. And I knew that Timmy had done it before. And yeah, it didn't go as great as he wanted it to go in 2003. He's been a little hard on himself, but I don't remember leaving there and being like, oh, red dog, he dropped the ball. That wasn't the case at all. Listen, dude, we were in Belgium. It was a home race for those guys. For the little staff that we had, we were really, really thin on all kinds of team personnel. I think across the board, I think we did pretty darn good looking back at it. My nose was torn, and you blew your thumb out, but we gritted it out. So going back to 2007, I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. I think Timmy was a great option. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, back to 03. I think we would have won 03 with Rhino had he not broke his chain too.
Yeah.
So I think I crashed 3. It was that year we didn't do 3 motos. We did. I don't know how we did it, but there wasn't 3 motos like it was now. It was a different format. Rhino in the main event, Rhino broke his chain, and I crashed like 3 times. So barring one less crash or a broken chain, we probably would have still won. And so if Rhino wouldn't have broke his chain, I think your 2 results would have actually given us the overall. So.
Yeah. It was regardless. It was, I think we did pretty damn good.
It was cool.
He's being hard on himself. Red's being hard on himself.
Well, I watched the race back last night. I was there. I did TV there. And I just remember there being a tremendous amount of excitement, right? And so, Timmy, you were coming off of that win at Washougal. I think that there was maybe a lot of expectation that the way the class structure and the competition that you guys could sweep every class. Did you feel that way?
Man, I was honestly I never really thought about that at all. I didn't really know the guys that were in my class or we were competing against. I didn't expect, honestly, Villapoto to ride that good that day. I know Ricky always shows up. So I could have never projected that we were going to get those results. I didn't feel like that. So at the end of the day, I know Ricky won one of the motos in the first turn, I think.
Yeah, I did.
So yeah, it was cool.
So what about the decision, the team decisions to put Villapoto on the smaller bike, give him the inside gate? Because you guys ended up with first pick, correct?
Yep.
And so both times, both of Villapoto's motos, he had the very inside gate. When you 2 raced the final moto, who got the inside gate?
I think
we were actually going into I think after the first moto, we were planning on me getting the inside, and then Ricky going outside, but then Ricky fell. It had to come through the pack. I think everybody got a little anxious. So Ricky ended up going the first gate, and then I was in 21, which ended where I think we went 1-2 the last moto, so it wasn't a big deal. But
yep. So the viewers and listeners that aren't familiar with this, and that type of situation, the rules change every year. So 20 teams qualify for the event. So there's 3 motos. There's a MX2 class, which is a 250, the MXGP, and then the MX Open. And so each class races 2 motos. So there's 2 classes for each of the 3 motos, okay? But the starting pick, if I remember correctly, because you guys qualified first, did you have first gate pick or did you have gate 1? Do you remember that? You know what I'm saying?
I want to say it was just, it wasn't gate one, was it? Was it, Timmy?
1 and 21.
Yeah, but was that first pick, or was that you got assigned to gate one? You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, I think you could pick whatever gate you wanted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just Budds Creek and most of the GP style tracks, it always seems like gate one's the gate to have.
Certainly was that day because you were on the very inside.
Yeah.
So the teams have to make a decision. What rider do you prioritize? Okay. And especially back in the days when it was 125, 250, 500. I mean, if you're on the 125, you ain't getting the whole shot anyway. So it's like you're the sacrificial lamb that gets the second gate pick. Whereas on this day, the top or the first rider that you want to put up there, he gets first gate pick. The other guys, he gets the 21st pick, which is going to be at least halfway out the start. And especially at Budds Creek in 2007, go down super deep, tilled up, 180 first turn. I mean, you had to be on the inside, and guys went down every race.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's when you're on the Motocross of Nations, and most teams do it now. Most countries do it now. I mean, you sacrifice that inside gate for the guy on the 250. You know, Timmy and I were on 450s. Our view was on we were on 450s. Our view was on 250, and you know, it's non-negotiable. You have to give that guy the inside. You know, and I don't know how I ended up getting the inside on the last moto. But anyhow, that's generally how it is. I mean, you have to give the smaller bike guy the advantage, and the guys on the 450s just, you know, you gotta do your best. But most countries do that. So like Red was lined up next to the next guy equivalent of who he needed to beat. So whoever was on 450 or the open class or whatever, you know, he was next to that guy. So it's not like all the 450s were stacked on the inside, you know, and he was next to 250s and vice versa. Same thing. Like for me in the first moto, when I gave the spot to RV, you know, I was lined up next to, I think, Chad or the guys that I, you know, was racing against in my respected class. So it's a common move that most countries do these days.
Timmy, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think it too, you know, at the end of the day, it's a team. So, you know, I think you're giving what, you know, and I feel like that's what it was at Budds Creek is we went into the last moto. I think he went 1-1. And then Ricky, did you get a third the first moto?
Yeah, I got third the first moto, yeah.
So I think we were going into the last moto going, we only need one good result, like because one of them's going to get thrown out. So, and obviously Ricky is basically the team captain and the anchor. So, so he obviously gets to pick. We ended up going 1-2 that moto, I think. So it was actually kind of cool, but, and the next year it was the same thing again. Villapoto went on the first two drops on the first gate, and then Stewart was outside, then I was outside.
Yeah, but thinking back to that time period, the gap between having to ride a 125, a 250, and a 500 two-stroke, the gap between a 250F, especially that year, and the 450s, that was much closer. Like I rode his Villapoto's 250F that year for a bike test, and that thing was insane. So it's almost like, you know, he was at the top of his game. I think that he had the best 250F out there, and he gets the inside gate. So one thing about it is he executed everything as he was supposed to, up to his full capability.
Yeah, he rode. He did everything perfect that weekend. It came down to it. Like I never expected him even still a whole shot on a 250F. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah. Dude, definitely. It was a very impressive ride. I mean, it's so cool to watch. Yeah, I mean, he was on point. He was the best guy there that weekend of everybody in the world. 110%. No one had anything for him. It was definitely, I think when he looks back on his career, even 20 years from now, he's going to be like, damn, man, that was a really, really special day for sure. So definitely a good vibe for him without a doubt.
Hey, so Ricky, I'm pretty sure you did, but Timmy, in that Motocross of Nations in '03, were you the fortunate one that got to ride the 125 against 250s and also 500s? Or then there probably would have been some pretty big four strokes in the class too, and get just pelted,
Man, you know
just
what?
get destroyed.
I want to say it's weird. I don't know. So what did you ride? You rode a 250.
I rode the 250, and I rode the 250. Rhino rode his 250, right? His Pamo 250.
Yeah.
You were on your 450, right?
I was on a 426. Yeah.
426.
Well, somebody had to ride a 250F or a 125.
That's why I said that year they had a different format. Yeah.
That it was different that year. Red is right. There was no Red Dog's right. There was no like 125 or 250 class. Just 450 and open.
Well, this is bullshit. You guys haven't got to experience one of the best things about the Motocross of Nations, and that's starting in the 125 500cc moto and getting a good start and it being like 20th.
Yeah, I did. I got to experience that in Fox Hills in '98, and then Brazil in '99.
Yeah.
I was
How'd that go for you?
not good at all.
I like my 03.
I've been to the Nations 3 times. We haven't won 3 times, and we've won 3 times. So, but I will say, and Red, I mean, in our day, and Jeff, even in your day, just how much fun it was to be picked for that team. Like I always like, man, I want to be picked to go on the team. I can remember my early years, and I was a little bummed the first year that I didn't get picked, but I understood why they would bring Lammy, which was definitely the right choice. I didn't have the experience. I had no business being there. But it's just a special feeling. And, you know, I'm glad that, you know, every time that I've been with Timmy at the Motocross of Nations, we've been on the box. We won once the overall as a country in 2007, and we got second in Zolder. So it's definitely a special feeling. There's no doubt. And, talking about 2007 Bud's Creek Mx of Nations, it was special the whole weekend. I mean, you just take a lap around the track, even if it was our sight lap. I mean, fans were just going out of their minds. You know, I could remember the first couple laps and then the closing laps of the race, you know, especially when Red and I were second, 1 and 2. I mean, the people were just losing their absolute minds. It was so much fun to be a part of. And that just kind of, that's a feeling that's really hard to explain, especially that podium, right?
Yeah, I was just looking at some pictures the other day of some old stuff. And there's one of Ricky, and then I'm just behind him. I got my helmet on, Ricky's got his helmet off. And the fans had already come onto the track, and they were just going nuts. So remember, it was cool for me we were riding around. Obviously, that was Ricky's last race, but we were riding around the track, and the fans were just coming over the fences and just going nuts. So the podium there was just insane.
Were you ever asked to be on the team and didn't ride? Turned it down? Anyone?
No way.
So what do you make of riders here lately that are making the choice not to ride this event? I mean, the first time that actually happened was in 1992. It opened the door for myself, Mike LaRocco, and Billy Lyles to all ride the event for the first time. Billy was riding the 500 Grand Prix in Europe. Mike and I were both riding 125s, in the AMA Motocross Championship. And there kind of was a sense, Bradshaw, Kudrowski, Stanton, some of these guys that like, we've won it so many times, like, the loss is coming. And so the team retooled with a new team manager, Roy Jansen, and then 3 of us rookies who had never won it. So we came in with all of this excitement, more enthusiasm, no experience. But lately it seems like, and you guys tell me, I feel like it coincides riders making the decision to not ride the Motocross of Nations once they've been asked, to me, coincides with rider salaries skyrocketing after 2000 or so. I feel like that there's a correlation there because, you know, you ride this for very little, like, you know, directly, you don't make a lot of money for the race directly, even though I would argue that sponsors pay you a lot of money in your yearly contract to do that race. Do you know where I'm going with this? You guys have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't think that we ever got any money at all. But as a whole, I always thought, man, I don't think we got any money at all. Sponsors, whether it was Cowie or Monster or O'Neill at the time, they got more press off, I feel like, that one race than it did the whole season. So, and it's something that lasts forever. There's a huge value there, I feel like.
Sure.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Jimmy is spot on. And, you know, for the riders who don't do it, I mean, I feel like at some point, I mean, the sponsors have got to be a little bit upset because it's a great marketing opportunity for them. Now, the riders and their managers are going to say, well, you want them to be ready for the Monster Energy Supercross and Pro Motocross Championship. Okay, well, what if the riders don't win? There's only one champion from each series, you know? So, and there's a lot of other guys out there getting paid. And if they have the opportunity to go and do these races, or especially the Motocross of Nations, you know, that's a missed opportunity for, it would have been for O'Neill in Timmy's day, Fox in my day, Jeff and you, like Thor back in your day. So it's a missed opportunity for not just the gear companies, but the OEMs as well, goggles, all that stuff. I don't know where the tide has turned myself personally. I mean, they're racing the same amount of races as we were back in the days, right? I mean, some will say, well, the main event, it's 20-minute main events now instead of 20-lap main events. So they got that on us. But
So they're racing, what, 3 minutes longer every Saturday night? And is that what you're getting at?
I mean,
well, it is a whole 17 races, though.
Oh, so what's 3 times 17? Add that up.
I don't know. I'm a little bummed
Was
about
that
it.
51 extra minutes? Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
You know where I'm going with this. Come on, you guys. Like, you know, so I've done the broadcast on the events since I think 2013, 2012, something like that. And it has grown. The atmosphere at the events and what it means globally for the riders, the teams, the sponsors, the fans is absolutely incredible. I mean, what Paulo and Stefano did at Majora Park, what was that, 2014? Oh, I forget the year. When Majora Park was where the race, because of the promoters, the track owners and promoters, 2 young guys, dear friends, the passion that they put into that event, dude, they packed, I think, 45,000 people at least. It was 2016, packed 45,000 people into a space that fit about 17,000 people. And it was absolutely mental. And what they did to celebrate the event and the past champions and the history of the event really has been a springboard for that event going forward. And then having France win all these times in a row and just everything that has to go on with that, I think has just created just an unbelievable atmosphere for the event. And I honestly, I know maybe I'm just an old man that's sentimental, but you know, saying no to that event is just one of the biggest mistakes. You know, I mean, Jeff Stanton, our buddy Jeff, has gone on record. He's been like, hey, not going in 1992 was he thinks one of his biggest regrets or one of his biggest mistakes in his career. And he didn't make a lot of mistakes, but you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's the fear of some of our guys feel like they're going to lose. Like, I think that's the wrong mentality too. Like, not to say that they're soft or whatever, but it's almost like they're afraid to lose instead of just going to represent your country because you're the fastest guy. And even if you're second or third, you know, you're second or third.
I never thought of that. I mean, it could be. I think at the end of the day, like, I think all 3 of us on this chat right now, listen, we're from an older generation. What we feel, some of the majority of the guys, the riders, they don't feel that way. And so we could sit here and tell them why we think they should do it. And they're, they don't look at it the way that we do. And we don't look at it the way that they do. And so we're never gonna win that argument. Listen, I think that they should do it. I think it's an incredible honor. I think, I think there's gonna be repercussions from the media, from the fans, if you don't do it. They might not agree with our view and why they think we should do it. Just like I don't agree with their view, they might not agree on how we coach or ride or say things, and same thing. So we're never gonna win that argument, but we could debate them all day on why we think they should do it. And it's just, dude, it sucks because it's such a fun race. I mean, the vibe is insane,
yeah, there's only, go ahead, Timmy.
I think the other thing too that I did a lot when I was racing, and Jeff, I think you did. So I don't think Ricky did as many, but like I went to Sep Reedy's and raced. Like I raced like in almost every country doing supercrosses in Europe. So, and when you go to Europe, it's a different vibe. Like it's a different flavor, and they're really, really passionate about it. Not to take away from this Budds Creek Motocross of Nations one, but when we won the following year in 2008. It was so difficult, probably like some of the ones that Ricky did where he went to Brazil and it was muddy. Like it was just this drizzly rain, and we won that race. And that one, like for me, I was to be American and be in England with a small little group of people and to be on top of the podium. I thought that was, I'm not gonna say more special, but man, it was tough. And I was more proud personally of that. Budds Creek kind of came a little easier. Like they weren't as much competition as I thought they were going to be, or as I built them up. But in Europe, they were fast. They were real fast over there.
So, isn't it crazy, Timmy, how like on their soil and their kind of area, just how freaking good they are, dude. It's like they're a different guy, right?
I feel like not to knock the USA guys, but those guys take a lot of pride in their country. And they rise to the occasion. The way what France has done, those few years, they give an extra effort when it comes to this event, and that's hard to top sometimes. Enthusiasm will go a long ways.
Okay, you guys. So when you look back to the Motocross of Nations at Redbud just a couple of years ago, Team USA has the opportunity to have this race on home soil. There are only 9 riders: Bob Hanna, Rick Johnson, Jeff Ward, Ryan Dungey, Trey Kennard, Andrew Short, along with you two, who have that experience of what it's like to race the Motocross of Nations at home. Why do you think that the riders in Redbud, why do you think that they struggled so much? I mean, there was a lot of pressure on them. Only you guys have felt that pressure. I don't have that experience. Why do you think that was such a tough race for them?
I mean, I think that the conditions were tough. It was kind of drizzly, rain, cold. Is
it only tough for the Team USA guys, or was it like that for everybody?
I think it's like that for everybody, but I feel that we do struggle a little more when the conditions aren't as sunny and nice. I mean, it's always nice in Florida. I never practiced with tear-offs. Those guys riding a lot of rain and snow and just kind of crappy weather. But I don't know that that year. I don't feel like we sent our best riders for that condition.
Okay, let me ask you this. So every year for the Motocross of Nations, I get there on the first day, and Paul Malin and myself, Ricky, you've joined the broadcast a few times. A decade ago, the media guys are like, GP riders are better than the American riders. And then as it started to slip away from Team USA, where the dominance, there was an expectation to be counted in as a team that could win it. Some of that has tailed off lately. See if you guys agree with me on this. I'm thinking about this. and I'm like, we focus on, we being America, the American championships, 8 months out of the year, you are busting your ass on a supercross track. And unless you ride Motocross of Nations or whatnot, you ride motocross basically 4 months out of the year. The rest of the time is supercross. It's dedicated to riding supercross. Okay. Well, they ride. What's that?
But that hasn't changed since me and Ricky rode, or you rode. But
it seems like the focus on supercross has become greater, so when I look at the amount of time that riders have here in America, riding sand, riding mud, things like that, compared to the guys in Belgium are riding sand 12 months out of the year. So if we go to a sand track, like in 2013, I think it was Belgium, the Team USA almost won that event. But I mean, shouldn't they be expected to be better?
If the conditions are, like you got a good point with the sand thing, but at the end of the day, I just think that our riders aren't enthusiastic about it for whatever reason. This sounds sad to say, but so I took my son, and I think Redbud was going to be could have possibly been another reenactment of Bud's Creek, because it was at Redbud. Like, I know I brought my 08 the Nations bike. We were going to do a lap. I know Stanton had stuff. Everybody was there. That dinner they did that one night.
Mm-hmm.
People were paying great money to come do it, and my heroes were in that room. So that one could have been possibly a reenactment of Bud's Creek 07. Like I said, I just don't think that year they sent the best riders.
Well, and then you hear things from behind the scenes, and like there's no team camaraderie. They weren't communicating. I mean, this is secondhand information. Could have happened, could have not. That's the things you hear, and it's always Monday morning quarterbacking. But I got it. Here's my theory, and Jeff, I've told you this. I don't know if I've ever talked about it on this, but my theory is this: there's so much time and effort put into Supercross. I wanted to win Supercross. Timmy wanted to win Supercross. You did too. We all spent a lot of time riding Supercross. But now I feel like guys want to win the Supercross championship more than they want to win the outdoor championship. And then when they get into the motocross championship, at that point, I feel like they're just doing what they got to do to get by. You're doing just enough. Like, okay, this is enough for the week. I don't need to do any more. Where Supercross, I feel like most of the time when they take the track during the week or during the off season, they are saying, okay, how can I get faster today? They're not just doing the minimum to get by. So that's been like that for a while now. And in my opinion, I just feel like it's caught up with us. And no, I don't want to discredit the guys that Timmy and I raced against, and Jeff that you raced against in Europe. But dude, the European riders, they have a way deeper field now than they did, at least in the years that I experienced it. And they're just faster. And there's less time and effort, in my opinion, put into the outdoors across the board. I mean, I know the teams are working hard, but it's no secret. You ask the teams which one they want to win. They'll tell you they want to win all of them, but if they had their choice, which one they're going to choose?
Well, when the bonus is more for Supercross than it is the outdoors, that'll sway you one way or the other too. So I know my contracts were even that way back then. I don't know what contracts are now, but I'm sure that they're the same. It's the other thing not to talk about old stuff, but there was a time when even before Ricky, there was Friday practice at Outdoor Nationals. There was like Saturday basketball games between the riders, camaraderie. We raced on Sundays, and then went to Saturday, Sunday. There was a lot more, it's like, how fast can we get in and out of the outdoors anymore?
That's right.
So there was a time when we were at an outdoor event for 4 days, when 92, 93, 94, those eras. So we spent a lot of time on outdoors.
It ain't that way. It ain't that way in the GPs. People are Friday morning, the paddock is set up and you're there basically for like 2.5, 3 days for just a GP.
Right. Yeah. I think I almost, I was an advocate, and probably Ricky probably was at the time, because our seasons were long, of going to a one-day outdoors. I really think, this is my opinion, and I don't know what it's worth, but I feel like a Saturday, Sunday program, I feel would help us in the Motocross of Nations, but I think it would also help, get people to come to the race. WW is 3 hours away, but I might be more inclined to just look at it on TV, But if it has a good amateur day and a good vibe, and the pros are going to be there on Saturday, I can take my little boy to see them, when it's not just a race day. I think that, would probably get people out to the races a little more for the outdoors, which would in turn make the riders better.
Well, that is a good point, because as a rider these days, everything is crammed into basically one day. Yeah. I mean, there might be a bit of press day riding and stuff on Friday, but there wouldn't be a lot of like fan interaction that day, or maybe as much as there would be if there was sort of 2 full days, where like at the GPs, Saturday has got a lot more, there's track time periodically, but then there's also, it's not race day. So maybe a little time for the fans and sponsors and stuff to interact, huh?
Yeah, WWGP they had, and I took my little boy around to meet the riders and stuff, because he will watch the stuff on TV, and he watches MXGP on TV almost daily, along with Supercross and Pro Motocross. But I took him around to see the riders, but necessarily on a Sunday, that's not the best time, because you got 2 practices, you got 2 motos, people are tired, people are trying to work, so maybe I've lost that interaction with the riders too.
So we have another Motocross of Nations coming up in America here soon. I forget the date. Is it 21? 22, something like that. It's coming up soon. What do you guys think has to happen for Team USA, whether it be this year or even when it comes back to American soil, for the guys to be, competitive for the win?
Go ahead, Red.
I kind of liked what I saw Anderson do. Was it last year, the year before?
Last year, yeah.
Last year.
Well, he won at Majora Park. He won the first moto, and then a split second later, the Japanese guy landed on him. Yeah.
They went over there and spent some time riding, and and I think we're so, like I said, we're as soon as the last outdoor is over, it's like, let's get some testing in, let's get ready for Monster Cup, and then let's go back and get some base endurance. So they just, everybody's afraid to give up a week or two of their life, when might be better off having the experience of going over there and riding some different tracks.
Yeah, and I was at the event last year also in Holland, and I'm not sure that I've ever witnessed worse conditions, different than, let's say, Fox Hill or some of these other mud races. This sand, it was so wet, and it just kept raining and raining. And the guys, I thought, were really prepared well. Like I thought, okay, Justin, Zach, and Jason, I thought they all did everything that they needed to do, like you're talking about, get that camaraderie together. And Justin Cooper was on the gas, and he makes one mistake in the first moto, and that was the first domino for the team, because his hand was hurt. He took Jason Anderson down, of all people, and then just from there they were just behind.
Yeah, it manifests, that it's, I mean, and Timmy, you know how it is. Jeff, you know how it is. It's so hard to describe it to the fans, just what that's like. And it just seems, of any race ever, yeah, Justin's going to take down Anderson. Now you couldn't try that again to make that happen again, but it's
right.
The Motocross of Nations. So yeah, and it automatically you put yourself at a disadvantage going into the next race. And I think the biggest thing, honestly, in my opinion, is just that team camaraderie, dude. Having a plan, having communication. Hey, this is what we need to do if this happens. This is where you need to start, and just do this and you'll be okay. The more communication is better. And I think that could really, really help. If you have a good plan and you plan for the what ifs, it's just gonna help. And I'm not close enough to the team to know if that's happening. I know that you know, it was happening in Budds Creek and some other races that I went to. Now, there were some that we could have communicated a little bit better, but at the same time, I mean, you have to have communication. So I think our riders are good enough and talented enough. I truly believe that. We got some of the best ones ever. I just think if they have a good plan and they play a little defense, I think that it goes a long way. I personally feel like Motocross of Nations, if you like defensively, if you plan defensively, you can do better than you think. And if you just don't fall, think you don't fall down, how well USA could have done maybe at Redbud, you know, or even like last year. Just think about it. That's really, you don't have to ride out of your mind. You just don't crash.
I know.
Right?
Back 07, you crashed in the first turn, and then in my first moto, I crashed in the first turn. Otherwise, we probably would have swept that race.
Right. So that's,
I mean, you had two guys down the first turn. And back to Zolder, if I wouldn't have fallen, if I'd only fell maybe twice instead of once, or once instead of twice, you know, we could have won. Or yeah, I think I like what you say, Ricky. Though, but it's easy for me when they came to me at Budds Creek and they said, "We're sitting on 1-1. Ricky's got a 3, and this is our best shot to win." I'm like, I'm all game. You tell me what to do. So if I follow Ricky's lead, you know, and I believe in him, then it's going to work out.
Yeah.
So
if Ricky says something, then, you know, he's got enough experience and stuff. You're like, okay, you buy it, you know, no matter what.
So wrapping this up, when you go back to 2007 and put yourself back on the podium, you guys, along with Ryan, Roger DeCosta was probably team manager, if I remember correctly, and then all of the team around. What was that feeling like when they played the Star Spangled Banner in front of the crowd there at Budds Creek?
Go ahead.
I mean, pretty special moment for sure. I don't think I really realized it at the time, how big of a deal it really was. Because I have grown men come to me, and to this day, if I'm at a race, whether I'm with my kid or a pro race, they're like, "Man, I was at 07 Budds Creek." Like, I'll never forget that day. And so I think at the time I didn't really quite understand how big of a deal it was. But yeah, as far as I can see, it was a sea of people out ahead, you know, out off that podium. So yeah, it was a neat one.
Yeah.
Ricky?
I mean, Timmy's exactly right. I mean, there's no feeling like it. And it was hot as hell that day too, man. And you know, I wasn't feeling the best, and I was going through some stuff, and dude, just to win that, and then especially with I was happy for Timmy, for him to be able to experience that, and Ryan as well, because it was, I believe that was your first time winning the Motocross of Nations, and I believe for Ryan as well, and to see the excitement on your guys' face, it made me happy as hell. I mean, it really did. And it was, you're standing, like Timmy said, you're standing on that podium. They're playing the Star Spangled Banner. I mean, it's just, the place was absolutely packed. And pound for pound, the Motocross of Nations and the vibe of that race is better than any single race of the year. You go to any race you want to go to, and I would put Motocross of Nations, it's just epic. The fans are they go crazy.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking about too, when I was growing up racing, and Jeff, you were talking about 125, 250, 500. I remember seeing video of the day. Was it Johnny O was on a 125?
Yep, Majora Park. Yep.
Yeah, so I remember that. So when I think about racing as a kid, I actually don't personally think about going, "Oh, I want to be Supercross champion." Like, I wanted to race outdoors, and I wanted to race Motocross of Nations, because if you could be the top 3 in your country, and USA being the leader, and I think as far as where people either want to race or the fastest riders are, you know, that's a really special, you know, place to be in. And like I said, to be able to share the podium with Ricky Villapoto, who went on to just, you know, be mega awesome. And then, you know, the following year was Villapoto and and James. So, for me, my name to be attached with those guys and those events were those carry my career. The '97 Supercross was cool, but at the end of the day, those couple of wins were, they put my name more in the record books as far as that goes than any other stuff that I feel like I did.
Well, I was there that day. Like I said, I was doing TV. If you'll indulge me in a little bit of story time here as we wrap this up. So I make the mistake before the event to commit to doing a bike test on Ricky's Suzuki the day after the event. Seems like a good idea. Mario Marini, I think it's Motocross magazine in Italy. So yeah, that'd be a cool deal. I'll get to go ride the track and all that. Okay, well, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but there was the after parties of all after parties at the Red Bull tent that night. You guys remember that? Anybody else there? Or was I the only one of the three of us that was there?
I didn't go to this one. I went to the one the next year, but I wasn't at this one actually.
Let me tell you, it was for the record books.
I saw the pictures though.
It was for the record books. I was there with Denny, Buddy, Tishner, all the Euros, because for all the Euros, this was the end of the season for them. So they cut loose. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And the alarm clock rang a little bit sooner than what I thought, right? It didn't really seem like I slept much. So I make it out to the track and everyone's cleaning up, breaking down. And I meet up with Roger and, Gosler and everybody, Team Suzuki. And they're like, dude, you don't look so good. I'm like, well, I had a little bit of fun last night. And so I suit up and go out on the track. And the track, as you guys would only know, you guys rode the last lap the day before. The track was hammered. I'm like, this ain't going to happen.
Dry and crusty and just.
Oh, dude. I said, let's get some photos. I'll make some comments about the bike and we'll be done because I definitely should not be riding this machine right now, right? And just to wrap it up, so you guys know the track owner there, Jonathan Beasley, right? I mean, he's half crazy anyway. One of the most passionate motocross people you'll ever find. So from what I understand, he might not have slept the whole time that weekend, right? He was just everywhere you looked. He was escorting the governor. He was taking money at the front gate. He was picking up trash cans. He was at the starting line. He was on the podium. He was on the, everywhere. So we get done, I get done riding Ricky's bike. Like, okay, thankfully that's over. Jonathan Beasley gets on the PA thing and starts welcoming people to the event.
Come on.
Dude, true story. Ask Gosler about it. We're like, he's got to be joking, right? Going on the PA, people are picking up trash and breaking down tents and all this. And yeah, we're like, wow.
Was he in the zone, you think?
I think he was in the zone. I don't know if it was for a joke or not, but that's my story.
Dude.
I did hear the same thing. I heard he didn't sleep for like 3 or 4 days during that whole time.
Mm-hmm. Which takes a toll on a man.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've known him. I don't know Jonathan well, but he's definitely a big enthusiast.
Oh, as big as it gets. And so if his childhood dream, or from whenever, was to host the Motocross of Nations. And thankfully, with Villapoto and you two gentlemen and Team USA at his track on home soil, he got to live the ultimate dream that day. I mean, I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. It was good that day. It was special. And dude, so how epic are the pictures? Just like podium pictures and stuff like that. I mean, it's just stuff you'll have for a lifetime. And you look at those pictures and just like, man, what a special day. Special day, not only for the racers, but the fans as well.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I get grown men that almost tear up talking about that race. They were there and they loved it. And it was neat. I was thankful to be part of it.
Well, you guys have any closing comments as we wrap this up?
Good stuff, man. Just it's always fun to always fun to relive these memories. You know, as we grow old, I mean, we're all, you know, getting up in age and got kids and have seen a lot in our life and experienced a lot of great opportunities, and got to do a lot of cool things that I don't think any of us ever thought that we would have been able to do. And we live a pretty darn good life. And I'm glad that we were able to share these moments. That was a moment that I will never forget. I'm glad I got to share it with you, Timmy. And just thanks. Obviously, I'd like to thank you for coming on, man. I think our listeners and our viewers are gonna love to hear your stories about the.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, I think I didn't win a lot of races. I don't feel like I got a lot of seconds to this guy. But I feel like being in Ricky's era, Jeremy's era, you know, Stewart, a little bit of Reed too, you know, to me, that era is just something special about it. I look back at pictures of the crowds, not only just at Motocross of Nations, but if you look at the crowds at the Nationals, it's just packed. And I think a lot of it had to do with Ricky and his dominance and where the sport went, you know, once he got in there.
Well, Red Dog, we appreciate you joining us as we take this little walk down memory lane together and talk about that amazing monumental 2007 Motocross of Nations at Bud's Creek. Can't wait to see you again sometime, Bud, and hope you guys, Evie and the boys and everybody, stay safe.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Same to you guys.
All right, everybody. Man, we hope that you guys appreciated this episode of Real Talk 447. Thanks, everybody from around the world, for listening. Of course, we can't do this without our sponsors. Well, we can, but we wouldn't make any money at all, and it would cost us money. So we appreciate Rocky Mountain ATV MC for being on board, Slick Products. They make those amazing bike wash products. The Emig Pro Grips and RC4 handlebars by ODI Grips. So make sure that you check out all of those companies, their websites. I'm sure that they're still shipping product if you need it. And of course, our partners at Fox Racing, who are helping us produce and edit this show, for everything that they do. If you like the show, hit the like button. If you like it even more, subscribe, and here on YouTube, and leave the comments for us. We love hearing your comments and getting your feedback. So thanks, boys. Appreciate it. And as always, we're going to have the Andrew McKeague Band take us away with This Old Line. See you guys.